The mics are working. Hello.
Trying to.
Test. Oh, there we go. Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in a second. Finish up your conversations. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Happy, what is today? Thursday. It is Thursday, November 6th, 2025. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. And for the folks watching at home, the they is the MSAD Board of Directors, as well as the North Yarmouth Selectboard and our amazing superintendent, town manager of North Yarmouth, as well as our town manager from Cumberland. Yeah, thank you guys all for being here on this chilly night. So we have a pretty robust agenda, but before we go into public comment or public discussion, which is our first thing, I would just love everybody to go around because we have some new faces here for the first time. So if you could do a quick hello, your name, where you live. And last time I asked everyone to say what they get a kick out of when it comes to public service. I won't put you all through that again. But you know, anything else you want to share, maybe something that made you smile this week or anything. I can start. My name's Tig Filson. I serve on the Cumberland Town Council. My council colleague, Mike Eads, over here gave me a giant bag of potatoes from the county this week, and that just made my life absolutely dandy. So, Councilor Mahalik, over to you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Mahalik. I live in West Cumberland, represent that part of the town. And last night we had a West Cumberland town meeting forum, and that was a very fun and exciting experience.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Barnes. I'm the town manager of North Yarmouth, and I live in Lisbon. And what makes me happy right now is I'm going to be going on vacation in a couple of weeks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Berry. I am the chair of the North Yarmouth Select Board. And the thing that makes me very happy is to see how many people turned out to vote on Tuesday.
Andrea took mine. Now I got to find something else to be happy about. I'm Susie Dowling. I also live in North Yarmouth. I'm the vice chair of the North Yarmouth Select Board. And I echo Andrea's. The thing that specifically has made me happy within the last half an hour is that I did not have time to eat dinner, but I did have a really delicious chocolate chip cookie on the way here, and it's going to get me through the meeting.
Hi, I'm Molly Gilligan. I live in North Yarmouth, and the thing that made me happy is being here with you all this evening.
Welcome, Molly.
For my first day as a select person.
Carl Sear from North Yarmouth Select Board, and what makes me happy is that it's snowing in the mountains.
Paul Whitmarsh, North Yarmouth, also a member of the Select Board, and I'm happy that the mic's in front of Carl and not in front of me.
Annika Hole, MSAD 51 Board of Directors, and just happy to be here, to have gotten here today. So, and I think it's the first time that I've been to one of these in a while, so it's nice to see everyone.
I am Kim Vine. I am the vice chair of the school board and acting chair tonight because unfortunately Leanne Kandura, our chair, is not able to be here this evening. And I am thankful that Tig is running the meeting and not me on my very first night as chair.
Jeff Porter, superintendent. What makes me happy is that the One Campus project is on track and under budget and is progressing every minute.
Awesome.
Sean Thurston, school board, Cumberland resident. What makes me happy is that I made it here just on time.
Hi, Tim Valenti, North Yarmouth school board member. I'm really pleased to see this setup. When you guys are all up here, it feels like I'm looking at my pharmacist or a judge, and this feels much more communal, so I really appreciate the setup.
Take this. I'm Lauren Welliver. I'm one of the new faces, school board member from Cumberland. So this is my first one of these, of course. And what makes me happy is that beautiful it's not a full moon anymore, but it's still so gorgeous out there. So that's it.
Sarah Rose, North Yarmouth, and I'm excited to put our heads together and see about some solutions.
Jesse Lamar Vincent from Cumberland, and I'm obviously on the school board. And what's been making me happy this week is it's getting cold in the evening, so I've been firing up my wood-fired hot tub and just taking in the stars or the clouds last night. But I'm excited for the moon tonight.
So we'll all be over there after the meeting tonight, I think, right?
I'm Katie Wallace. I'm the senior student rep on the school board, and what makes me happy is that even though I was late and I went to the wrong place, you guys let me in.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Sturgis. I'm town manager for the town of Cumberland, and I am just happy to be here with a group of awesome, dedicated volunteers. You guys do great work, and it's really just an amazing thing in this day and age for people to step up and do what you do. So thanks for that.
I'm Andrew Magoon, Cumberland Town Council. I would say what makes me happy is the Cumberland Public Works, Fire Department, and CMP for clearing the road, or the tree that blocked our road on whatever day the wind came through. Spectrum, not as happy.
Hey, Mike Eads, Vice Chair of the Cumberland Town Council. I'm in my 5th term, which was only supposed to be 2 terms. I'm still here. What makes me happy, I'll just follow up with what Diane, you guys said. I start vacation 2 weeks tomorrow in the woods where there's about 3 inches of snow. So.
Awesome sauce. Thank you, everybody. We are missing 3 counselors. Just a heads up. Poor Councilor Douglas and Councilor Thorson are a little bit under the weather, and Councilor Vale is at the comp plan tonight. But we have a couple of updates from them as the meeting kind of progresses. So first thing that we have on our agenda is public comment. And so we welcome anyone in the audience who'd like to come up to the podium and share any thoughts that they'd like all of our bodies to hear. We do ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone's had a chance to speak, because we've got a big group here and we want to hear all of your thoughts. It's not, just a heads up, kind of our practice as within Cumberland to respond to those comments in real time. Please know that we're listening, and any follow-up will happen after the meeting. So yeah, if anyone wants to come up and chat, come on up. There's a podium right there. Yeah, please.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Morazzini. I've lived on 15 Meadow Lane for 33 years. I'm speaking for myself. I have spoken to other neighbors around the school specific to an issue that's come up before. That's a PA system in Greeley Field, lights, noise, music, lyric content. This is not about crowd noise. This is not about a specific form of music. That was brought up last time. Good things can be said. I think things have gotten better over the last year. I think after folks came to the town council about a month ago, I know things have improved, so I thank the town council as well as the people who've helped me with the schools. I want to say, though, that more needs to be done. And I think we can work it out. So the noise is in the background and not in our house. The last football game, 9:45, I'm returning an emergency call for my practice, and I got the announcing and the music at the end was spiked. People who are at the game are the ones who want to hear it. That can be worked on. The game should start sooner as well. I noticed Yarmouth had a 6 o'clock football game. As far as the lyrics to music, you've had a lot of problems. This has been going on for 6 years. I have an email from 2019. But to the credit, and that includes recently producing I think a Spotify package. I haven't heard any complaints about that. Unfortunately, I did hear a complaint that when the students were practicing, they were playing music that was sexually explicit and inappropriate. I heard a mother, and the town heard this, I heard a mother talking about having to explain to her child sexually explicit lyrics, like an 8-year-old girl, has no place. My question is, where's the supervision at that time? I'll say again, I contacted that mother, and she said, She hasn't heard anything from the lyrics. Music's been down, so credit where credit's due. I want to address something that was said to me by someone who was supposed to help me a few years ago with this project. And I'll quote, "People build their houses around the school and then they complain about the noise from the school." Well, things changed. The technology changed. The school put up higher lights, louder speakers for their games. And so the technology changed. I don't know if I would move there if I know what there is now, but here we are. Technology has changed in a second form. We now have the plastic feel, heavy use. And that's something I want to address, the schedule for the use of that field. Every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., that field can be used. Every Sunday. I've run out of time? Mercy. Anyway, 7 to 10:30, it's open for usage. Someone said to me, well, that's because the tournaments run late at night. If they run late at night in those neighborhoods wrapped around it, the most neighborhood encompassed playing field we know, it doesn't belong there. The neighbors come first. Little children are going to bed, trying to stay in bed. Seniors who are sick are in the condos. And seniors are like me, just working, want to get some sleep. I realize I've gone over. I like to work things out, but people are at a breaking point. I know one group has a lawyer, and I know people have talking to just blowing this thing to the Justice Department because SAD 51 is known. It's not where I want it to go. Thanks for your patience. I'm sorry I went over. Thank you again.
Thank you, Glenn. Is there anyone else that wants to come up during public comment? Come on up. And just your name and where you live, please.
Hi. My name is Jenny Eastman. I live in Cumberland, Maine. Sorry. On 13 Shady Run Lane. And I have two girls who attend MSAD 51 too. As I shared with you, my name is Jenny Eastman. I am the director and the owner of the Willow School, nature-based Montessori preschool here in Cumberland. And I've had the pleasure of working in early childhood for almost 18 years now. And I'm so grateful to have the chance to speak with you tonight. As Maine expands public pre-K and begins serving more 3- and 4-year-olds, Greeley has the opportunity to lead ahead, as Rangers do. To design a model that's developmentally right for kids and fiscally right for the times. The state's Chapter 124 standards spell out what quality looks like, but they also give us room to be creative, to partner with licensed community-rooted programs that already serve families here. That's what's known as mixed delivery. And it's working beautifully in places like Brunswick and Raymond and Gorham. These partnerships are the kind of Maine common sense that we all appreciate, right? They stretch our dollars further, they keep children in warm and familiar settings, and make sure public funds go straight to learning, not to brick and mortar or overhead in salaries. With a $25 million investment already made in the new pre-K through first grade building, the enrollment projected to grow may not meet what we have in mind. This is a moment for us to think ahead. Partnering with community programs could free up classrooms we'll need down the road, letting that new building serve families longer before we ever have to add on to it again. This is the kind of approach that is both Yankee frugal and future-minded. The kind of practical collaboration that makes Maine a leader in doing what we have to do. I look forward to sharing more data with you, sharing my center with all of you, and having you meet my teachers so you can see what amazing educators they are. And I hope that I will get a chance to meet with each of you and chat with you about this issue sometime this year. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenny. Anybody else? Come on up.
Good evening, Shirley Story King, Cumberland, Maine, and I've shared with the Cumberland Town Council a number of items that I hope get discussed in the future, and I've shared with the school board, and we even shared, the tax advisory group even shared concerns about future tax impacts with the North Yarmouth Select Board. But I actually wanted to encourage you all to take the pre-K survey for the exact reasons Jenny was saying. I am not an early childhood educator. I am the parent of he's now 34, I can't even call him a young adult, with special needs who needed both school services and private services, and those private services were delivered in his preschool setting. So I appreciate the challenges ahead for the school board, but I wanted to caution all of you, like Jenny said, to think ahead. You can't deliver a preschool model and then all of a sudden not have enough room for your kindergarten, first and second graders and cut back on that model. That's not going to fly with the public who's used to getting pre-K services. So just be forward thinking in that regard, because that is one of the things I think you have the opportunity for a vision here. I think you need to listen to the early childhood educators. They are not K-12 educators. There's a different endorsement to be an early childhood educator. They have much more training in human growth and development, training I didn't get until I was getting my master's degree. I had one human growth and development, and I have a K-8 certification until I got my master's degree. Well, and all the other courses that led up to my master's degree. But so thank you. Thank you for your time and your forward thinking tonight.
Thank you, Shirley. Anyone else want to come on up? Okay, then we will close public discussion and we will move into high-level updates from each of our three bodies. Andrea, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Give me a second. So, hello, everyone. We've been encouraged to share a high-level update, as Tig said, for each one of our communities. And so here is kind of the highlights from North Yarmouth. The first thing is that as of yesterday, we now have a full 5-member board, and we're really excited to welcome Molly Gilligan. So congratulations, and thanks for coming on such short notice. And we're very pleased to have 60% voter turnout in this past election, which really, I think, shows the deep commitment that folks in North Yarmouth have to our democratic process and to being engaged in our community. And I think that sets the ground really well for us today in this conversation, knowing that our community is paying attention and they feel strongly that that their elected bodies are listening and are there to move our communities forward, certainly during these challenging, especially challenging financial times. The Select Board has identified 3 top goals for our current fiscal year, and I'll walk you through each one of those because I think they nicely highlight the priorities that are happening in our community. The top goal that we have is, again, about financial situation that we all find ourselves in, rising taxes, the loss of things like SNAP benefits that we're experiencing right now, challenges to LIHEAP and other items. And our primary goal is to work to balance the rising costs of operating as a municipal entity with growing financial impacts on residents by improving our financial assistance programs, by continuing to explore creative partnerships across communities. And so we're very happy to be having this conversation and know that we're planning our scheduling our joint standing committee meeting at the end of today, and by bolstering our long-term financial planning. During the 3.5 years that I've been on the board, we've taken our community from a really perilous financial situation to now, through Diane's leadership in our financial planning, to a substantial cushion for our community in situations where revenues may not flow from fees or other things when in ways that we need. And so we are really on strong financial footing and look forward to figuring out how we manage and balance that dual pressure of providing services to our community and to our constituents, as well as balancing the tax impact and those fiscal elements weighing on people. Our second goal is to continue to guide the development of critical strategic plans for our town. And this includes the soon-to-be completed Climate Action Plan for the town of North Yarmouth, as well as next month we'll be receiving the first draft of our Open Space Plan, which we're very excited about. Those two plans are really setting the ground for our community to kick off our comprehensive plan update. Our current comprehensive plan was written and accepted by the community in 2018, and it was worked on for 2 years, which means somehow 2026 is time for us to kick that off. So we encourage everybody to, from North Yarmouth, to keep their eyes and ears open for opportunities to get involved and join that committee as we move that process forward. We will not be officially starting to do the drafting of the plan in our current fiscal year, but we have committed to spending the time to form the committee so that when we get into July of next year, we are ready to hit the ground running. Finally, our third goal is improving communications with the public over the course of our next year by countering misinformation, modeling respective dialogue, and avoiding unnecessary conflict, and exploring available technology-based improvements while minimizing additional burden on town staff. And so we're really trying to be thoughtful about the ways that information comes in and out of our communities. We are paying attention, and we're trying to make sure that we are making sure that we have the most informed community members that we can. And some of those strategies are including a new Just the Facts page that the town has been rolling out and piloting, which we know has been kind of perked up interest from a number of other communities, which is exciting. We are also looking to involve more young people in our town and understanding that young folks like we have here on the school board, thank you, Katie, can be part of our community in many different ways and part of our government. And so we are rolling out a youth participation or youth liaison program as well for our community. We want to get everybody involved, and that means also looking to fill critical volunteer openings on many of our boards and committees. And so we'll be continuing to move forward to ensure folks that getting involved in town does not have to be as scary as putting your name on a sign out on the side of the road, but you can raise your hand, fill out an application, and get involved on one of our town's committees and have a real long-lasting impact there. Finally, I'll just share that we are going through this year a statistical reevaluation. We're not doing a full reval as Cumberland has done, but we're doing this partial, what's called a statistical reval, to help us to get closer to the actual evaluations in our community. So I think that will be very helpful as we look at the ways that our towns are working together and how that intersects with the work and the budgets of the school board. So that is in process and will hopefully be coming online within the end of this year, I believe, or the beginning of next year. The results of the statistical reval, not till June, so the end of this fiscal year. Yeah, and that's all I've got from here. But North Yarmouth is busy. We're excited and ready to get to work.
Great lay of the land. Kim, you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. All right, so as you can imagine, what the biggest focus is on our one campus. And some of you have hopefully attended a game on our turf fields. You may have noticed that the maintenance building is getting really close. We've got about another month, 3 weeks, something like that, yeah, before it is finished. And I'm going to have Tim, if you look at the agenda way down there, number 7, lucky number 7, Tim is going to be giving a full update on our one campus plan. But just to highlight a few things that are also happening right now, it takes a lot of work to open essentially 4 new schools. While the high school will not be changing as far as grade configuration, we really are going to have 4 brand new schools. And so that takes a lot of work to, with staff, to think about curriculum, especially for our 4th and 5th graders, which is going to be a change back to something we had a very long time ago, but most people don't even remember when 4 and 5 were not combined. So that takes a lot of work. I really want to commend our administrators and our teachers who have been putting in very, very long hours working on this, and will continue to work on that. So just as a reminder, we will have a pre-K through 1st grade building, we will have a 2nd through 4th, we will have a 5th through 8th, and of course our high school. And speaking of the pre-K through 1st building, we do have a contest, sort of, where we are asking for names for that building. And so if you have not yet submitted your suggestion along with, was it 25 signatures to get it submitted? Is that right? Just 10. Okay, just 10. Yeah. Oh, it did just, I thought so. I thought it just closed. Okay. So we are in the process of looking through those names, and I think Tim will include more of that in his report. On top of that, as Shirley mentioned, we have the pre-K survey. That has been included in our superintendent's report each week. So if you do not get those emails and you want to, please sign up for that. You can contact the district office, or there's a way to just sign up for it right on our website. Or if that it is not possible for you to complete that form online, call the central office. We can work something out. But we definitely want to get as much input as possible, because this is a big deal for both of our communities as we move forward on what pre-K can and could look like. In addition to that, there's another survey, which is for our new strategic plan. So if you go to our website, you will see the strategic plan that we have had since 2018, 19? 2018, yeah. And for obvious reasons, we won't say the word because none of us like the word, but there was a bit of a gap in there where nobody wanted to do anything, start anything different. However, this year, we do have a committee to create a new strategic plan, and we are seeking input from the community on that. So please watch for that. That will also be in the newsletter, correct? Will it be online?
There's actually a survey that just is going out.
Yeah. So please, it has gone out. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure if it officially. Yeah, I apologize. I forget where I get my emails from. So yeah, so that I'm on that committee, so I couldn't remember if I just was privy to that survey or if it actually was available. So please look for that. Please fill that out. Again, if you have not seen that survey, contact us and we will make sure that you get it. But we very much want to hear from the community as we begin planning for this new phase for our district. That's about it.
I like all your surveys.
There's a survey for our survey.
Is there a survey for your survey?
How many surveys we should have?
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I will round us out from the town of Cumberland. So we are super excited. We are in the kind of in the middle of doing the real work on our comprehensive plan. So we kicked off in January. we're kind of right now, we also did a survey, which had some really great responses. But we're in kind of the phases right now of doing a lot of community outreach. We're doing structured activities, bringing people in to kind of not only have discussions, but also do some activities that allow us to gather data on specific topics. So everything from, are there parts of town where you've noticed a lot of pedestrian safety issues, or you've had a close call in your vehicle, to what type of housing would you like to see in town? So it's been really a pleasure to kind of see all of that work happening, and we're hopefully on track to have that kind of starting to be tied up in the April time period. We also have the Route 100 roundabout in West Cumberland is moving forward. The engineering RFP has been awarded to Goral Palmer. It's now officially a DOT project, but our fingers are crossed that shovels will be in the ground in 2028. So yeah, cross your fingers on that. We are also making some pedestrian and traffic improvements on Route 100, hopefully starting in late spring, but the town manager promises me it's not going to be during the week of the Cumberland Fair, but they'll be doing kind of some shaving down of the road. There were a lot of sightline issues in that part of town. I think also we're doing, what do we say, not tree improvements, but
There will be some trees taken out of the way, and as well as lowering of Route 100 on the southbound from Lower Methodist Road, where there's also another blind spot that exists in there. So if you want me to update on that quickly, Madam
Yeah,
Chair?
go for it, please.
We opened bids today, which is really exciting because they came in under bid, under budget. So we're overjoyed about that. We had 9 different contractors come in, and you always love to see that. You want a lot of heavy competition at this time. We had 3 of them that were really close. I think that between the apparent low bid and the next bid, it was $2,000 difference. So our firm, engineering firm's reviewing that today, but it's all, we had the primary and then 2 bid alternates that came in there, and all 3 of them combined came in under where we were at. So we're just going to qualify those bids now, but looking to do that. Councilor Mahalik, when we had the meeting on the west side last night, folks up there were very interested in that because it is an acute safety issue, and it's an item of great importance to folks who live over that way, as well as the traveling public in general. Coincidentally, my family is also a data point with crash statistics over there. So, so I'm not doing that selfishly. I just know that we are one of the contributors to a high crash location. So we're really excited about that, and looking to have that improvement there, as well as some pedestrian and cycling improvements, because it gets pretty tight over there and there's not a lot of shoulder. So we're really excited to get that moving forward.
All right, so you started talking, and I'm going to punt back to you. The biggest thing that we have, as well as is our revaluation. Our amazing town manager is also a former tax assessor, so no one better to kind of talk about that than Matt. So if you wouldn't mind giving everyone an update on the reval, that would be wonderful.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm a recovering assessor, is what they call it. But we have a really good one. Clint Sweat's going to do a great job for us. He's going to be presenting to the council on Monday night with an update as to where the project's at. What we're looking at here is, in similar fashion to what North Yarmouth is doing, it's a bit of a hybridized approach. So they're looking at a lot of sales over the past 3 years, qualifying the information, and then they'll be updating the cost schedules and the land values to look at the overall assessed values and correct them or bring them up to timely approach to where we are now, closer to full value, because we're roughly below 50% at the present time. So we're looking at a significant change as North Yarmouth is. I mean, a lot of our towns are in the same position where the market has gone strongly forward over the past, and it's been 17 years since the last one in Cumberland. So the plan going forward will be to do it about every 2 years going out, so there's not all that whiplash effect that could take place with revaluations, and so you won't. So you'll see more stable tax rates going forward versus right now we're at about 25. If you take it down by by math, if you think about it, if you're the $12 to $13 after the reval, it'd be better to keep that in that kind of range going forward. But it's a daunting task, and people are nervous about it, as they are in every community that does a revaluation. One of the things, a question that comes about for all of our organizations, you know, for Cumberland, for North Yarmouth, for the schools, is what's that impact going to be on tax rate? And looking at passing budgets and getting those done. How do you go about forecasting that? With both projects probably being deployed in June, it'll probably be after the votes take place. They'll get the numbers out in the late spring probably, and then there's a period of time where folks come in, they do informal appeals, where they can come in and say, you know, what are you, crazy? I don't have 17 bedrooms, I have 2 bedrooms and a half bath. So there's that correction that takes place there. So there's some shrinkage from the original number, so you can do it and everything looks great. It's kind of like your first rough draft of your thesis paper. Looks awesome, and then you read and you're like, what am I thinking? So you want to correct those items, get them back to where the errors are, and control that. So then by the time you get around to printing them and committing taxes, you've got the majority of those questionable items out of the way. But looking at planning for budgets, the easiest way to look at this is to look at your net year over year. You know, look at what your revenues are going to be, look at what your expenses are going to be, and compare that to last year's budget. So if you know it's going to be 2%, 3% difference over, you know, year over year, that's probably the best way to look at it versus saying and trying to tie it to a mill rate and saying, well, it's going to be $7 as a mill rate. That's hard to say at that point because North Yarmouth's number is in flux. So we look at it from the town side. You know, when we do our budgets, you know, at least speaking for my team and I, when we look at that, we're going to look at net year over year and say, okay, what does that look like? And put in a conservative number as far as growth, which is in play. The important thing that people need to realize is that revaluations are revenue neutral. We don't have, it's not like we went to Oxford and cleaned up. It's, you know, it really comes down to expenditures and the net amount that all of our organizations need to meet our, you know, meet our operational needs. So, you know, from the school side, it'd be, you know, you guys have heavy-duty contractual obligations, and, you know, it's contractual obligations, health insurance, which are huge drivers for all of us. And then you've got, you know, debt service that we all have to deal with, and looking at that, and then how's that net out? With us on the town side, we've got the same thing: contractual obligations, debt service we need to take care of, as well as health insurance. I shudder to think about what our health insurance obligation is going to be in next year, just because, you know, we all are facing that. The market is crazy right now. Last year we built in a 3% increase, but we had gone out to market, and we were fortunate enough that we timed that well, and we had a 3% decrease. So we had a positive swing that helped us to our bottom line. You know, we took advantage of a good market last year, so we'll have to wait and see where our provider is going to be this year. So those are some of the drivers that, you know, we're going to be looking at. Fuel costs are going to be decent. I'm pretty sure of that, but at least hopefully where we're at in years past, it's not as volatile as it has been. And the town has, you know, working on doing a big solar project that should help our bottom line as far as electricity costs and utility costs there going forward. But overall, looking at the reval, it's a daunting thing. It's scary for all residents as well. I've done 3 of them in my career. The biggest one was I did one in Cape my second year there, and, you know, waterfront was at like 25-30% of value. So it's similar times to where we're at now. But, you know, we'll get through it. The one thing I know, talking with our assessor in Cumberland and the previous assessor, is that there's a good balance within the market. As far as equity, there's going to be growth. There's going to be areas that appreciate greater than other areas do. That just takes place with any market. But as far as there's not great disparities between them. So you're going to see, you know, so people will see changes that take place. That's the scary part, because people will look at that and say, okay, you know, my assessment went from 400,000 to 800,000. Did my taxes double? And it's just trying to be communicative and getting that information out so people understand, no, your taxes aren't going to double. You know, it's just a question of fixing that tax rate to reflect that and doing it. That's the part that takes a long time, you know, to get through the hearings in the spring, make those adjustments, and then by the time you go to commitment in August, that's our target we're looking for, so we can get the tax bills out, and then people can move on with their lives and have that new number. So Yeah, it's daunting to do, but you know, we do have a good assessor, and he's got some good folks that are doing the work, and I think, you know, it'll be great, at least in some ways, because exemptions will be put back to where they at full value, so they'll get to maximize those. So that's one of the benefits, because now they're at about 50% of what they should be. So those will come up, so that provides some additional tax relief. We do in Cumberland have a tax deferral program, so if people want to enroll their properties in that, they can defer their taxes or the growth year over year. That was a bill that just passed in the last legislature, and Cumberland adopted an ordinance to allow that to take place. We also have the property tax relief program, where folks, if it's means-based, so if people can qualify, especially if they're older, they've been residents for town for a certain number of years, and their incomes don't exceed a certain amount, they can get up to, I think it's about $500 back from that program. So that provides some relief as well. So that'll also be part of the revaluation, is to let people know that there are programs out there that exist to help people find relief as they need it going forward. So that's.
So can I just jump in on that?
Of course,
Thank you. So I just want to reiterate that state law requires the school budget to be finished, meaning able to be voted upon at the June election. And working backwards from that, that means the school board has to approve it. We have our district budget meeting where the community comes in. And historically, we've been able to offer an approximation of what the mill rate will be for both towns. So I just want to make sure everyone kind of heard that and is on the same page, that what Matt is saying is we will not be able to provide that information going into the June election. We will work with both town managers to come up with the best approximation we can. Of course, state subsidies always gets factored in, and we're always hoping for a little bit more as our base grows. But that does put us in a very awkward position as we enter our budget season, and we're just hoping that you will help us through that as we are not able to provide the typical information that we would be, especially going into the election piece of it.
And that'll be our goal, is to try to have something, you know, close to, but probably more, when I say more conservative, meaning not to overpromise and underperform. I was just at a conference with a lot of other managers, and I was speaking with a manager from a Western Maine town, where they just got done doing a revaluation, and they've got an issue where they're about $2.3 million in less revenue than they anticipated coming, because I think they used the wrong, my guess is that they used the higher number that came out, basically the rough draft number. So there's a challenge in that, and trying to use your experience to say, okay, you know there's going to be shrinkage of about X amount of dollars from the first number to where you're going to be at, and then you want to be a little bit more conservative there. So if you, it'll be our goal, is to try to be helpful, to give you numbers that you can work with. Both towns, approve. North Yarmouth approves their budget at town meeting in May, and we're going to do the same in Cumberland in May as well, as our goal, because we all have that July 1st date we got to shoot for. So that's the big challenge.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I think that's a good segue, I think, into our first official item, which is looking at the community services, which all three of our communities offer. A lot of people are feeling pretty significant pinches from, SNAP impacts, also just generally everything being more expensive right now. Andrea, I know this was something that was also pretty important to you. Did you want to kick us off? Or I'm also happy to, but.
I think the reality is that we have a lot of conversation in town about, making sure that we're supporting seniors in their homes, making sure that we have the resources available for the people who need it most. And this feels like the most exacerbated moment of that need right now, knowing that SNAP benefits are, not coming, or at best coming partially, we need to ensure that we're doing the most that we can in all of our communities to support folks. And so it felt important for us to just, not just glaze over that particular piece, knowing both the impact on SNAP as well as the impact that is coming on LIHEAP. So home heating assistance, it felt helpful and important for us to be able to articulate the resources that are available for each of our communities, especially knowing that many of these resources cross town lines, and obviously the school does so as well. And so it just felt like a moment to talk that through. North Yarmouth does not have a very large number of people either drawing on SNAP benefits or accessing general assistance, but we do want to remind folks that you can still access general assistance. And so anyone who has lost SNAP benefits, the threshold is higher or lower. The threshold is harder to meet for general assistance, but we definitely encourage folks to do so. We also want to appreciate, we did hold a food drive of canned food that will be going to the Cumberland Food Pantry on Election Day, and we're really, really overwhelmed by the positive support that the community brought in. You have to kind of tiptoe through the lobby of West Costigo Hall right now to get around the food. So before I leave here, I'll be talking to y'all as to how we get that food over here, because it's definitely more than can fit in my car. But I've been really pleased to see how community has been coming out. It felt important to remind everyone that North Yarmouth, as well as a number of other towns, it's my understanding, use the Cumberland Food Pantry for their food needs. So I really want to encourage folks. I know that you all will talk about that, but that you're open on Fridays and making sure that people know that that's available, as well as a number of the other resources that Cumberland and the school are able to offer. So we just appreciate that. And we also want to encourage folks, if you are struggling with food access, a number of local restaurants and other businesses are truly stepping up in this moment to be able to support folks. And I have been working with some organizations to compile a list of all of those restaurants who are offering those types of food, and we'll make sure to send that out and make sure that that is available just kind of widely in our community. North Yarmouth, again, does not, beyond SNAP benefits and accessing general assistance, we don't have a large set of services that are available. So we very much also appreciate the way that Cumberland and the school step in to fill a number of those gaps.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I think you hit the nail on the head there. The only thing I would really add, you mentioned, of course, the Cumberland Food Pantry, so we serve Cumberland, North Yarmouth, Pownell, and New Gloucester. I know that Matt has been in close touch with the food pantry, and we've also we're really just trying to direct everyone there, whether or not you want to do a financial donation or you want to donate food. Councillor Vale, who's not here tonight, is kind of rallying the troops to all give $100, because if you have 18 people that give $100, you can basically fund the SNAP benefits that have been lost for a month. And so that's something that he has kind of been championing. Some of the other services or programs that are in place, at least from the town of Cumberland perspective, Matt talked a little bit about both of our property tax assistance program as well as the tax deferral program. But one of the other things that I think a lot of people know about, but we have a tough word to say, benevolent fund, which is really directed around heating assistance for folks who sometimes fall through the cracks. So whether that be oil or natural gas, that's a fund that we have here within the town to be able to kind of help get folks through the difficult winter months, give that financial relief. I don't know too much about the wood bank, which I think is in North Yarmouth, right? But I know that's a great resource, or if anyone can you fill those gaps in for me, Mr. Eads?
No, it's a good deal. I mean, they put out a lot of cords of wood to our residents. So it's if you've got trees and you've got stuff you want to donate, they'll chop it up and do everything. It's good. It's great for the community. It really is.
Is there anything on the Cumberland end that we missed, Matt?
Pardon?
Is there anything on the Cumberland end in terms of services that we missed?
No, I think you got it all together, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yeah.
We can add a couple things. For one thing, the newsletter that I mentioned earlier, this particular week, Superintendent Porter focused on inclement weather. And so, of course, one of our concerns is if a child is experiencing food insecurity, sometimes they get their meals from school. And if school is canceled, we want to make sure that they still have access to meals. So that is an option, especially if you know a big storm is coming. We can send your child home with 2 days worth, I think it was, of shelf stable food. We also, all of our guidance counselors are very in tune to this. There's a way for them to be aware of some families, but not always. And so we do absolutely encourage families to reach out to either their child's teacher or wherever you feel comfortable. But absolutely, we can. We would love to know so that we can continue to help offer other resources, but also resources within our building.
One thought on the inclement weather, I mean, because we typically open town hall when the power goes out as a warming station for people in the community, if their power is out for a while. And I know that we've had folks from North Yarmouth come here as well. It's kind of a more the merrier type of situation. I don't know if there'd be any potential to coordinate if you do have kids that maybe needed meals that are picked up if we ever have one of those super storms where school's out, maybe we could be a resource for you. Just a thought.
That would be great. We provide, so if we know a storm is coming, our communication is, and we do have families that will come and get the meals prior to the storm. They know the storm's coming. Our food service director provides those bagged meals for the students that we have in advance. But if I think you're talking about a prolonged storm, maybe.
Wasn't there a couple last year or the year before? It was like 3 or 4. Some people were out of power for three or 4 days.
Yeah, it went through a weekend, I think, is what happened. So we try to forecast, based on the forecast, how long is it going to go. So generally it's 2 days that we provide meals, but certainly if something comes up, we can provide meals for longer than that. And we try to do that in advance when we know there's a storm coming. So we do have families that come in and get those meals.
Okay.
Great service, Joe.
Yeah, it is a great service. We've been doing it for years and years, and it's really important for some of our families.
Well, if you get stuck, let us know. Did anyone? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with what Andrea said. We also have a program in North Yarmouth for heating assistance, and it will target those people that fall through the cracks, but they have to apply for general assistance and be denied in order to qualify for our program. So we typically have 1 or 2 a year that takes advantage of that. There may be more now that may try because of what's going on at the federal level.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, Councilor Filson, is that we have about 140 students that we know of that, because of the SNAP benefits, main care, et cetera, kind of the uncertainty that we are just kind of eyeballing. And we have our counselors and social workers, like Kim had mentioned, that are in touch with the families as needed. But if there are people that we're not aware of, obviously we'd like to know that and do something as well. One of the things the SAD does that probably people don't know is we do all of the unused food we send to the pantry here. So that's something that we do as a community resource so that families can access that as well. And we direct them here if they need more help. So.
Anyone want to chime in before, or are everyone's feeling good about kind of this particular topic? Okay, or not good about it because it's really stressful and awful topic, but okay, so moving into our next big one. Overview of LD 1829 and some of the implications for long-term planning and right-sizing. The state legislature has passed a statute, LD 1829, which is basically kind of requiring towns to accommodate higher housing density, particularly in designated growth areas. And so the larger goal of this law is to increase housing supply and improve affordability across the state. In practice, what we are preparing for is that we may see more units allowed per acre in certain areas of town, particularly those with sewer and water infrastructure, and that part's really, really important to note. And so we wanted to bring this to the table, especially as we're talking about enrollment and making projections, because the density could impact everything from school population, also to long-term service needs. So it's just really something that we all need to kind of be thinking about. As the town of Cumberland is working through the comprehensive plan, that committee will be making recommendations as part of it, especially looking at those growth areas and just kind of how we respond thoughtfully to these state level changes, which have kind of, for lack of a better term, sort of taken away the concept of home rule, really. Over time, so I think looking at the influence of population growth, school enrollment, demand for services, it's going to have impact possibly on fire, police, EMS. We really just need to be thinking thoughtfully about what this means for us as schools, towns, our shared services. My understanding is that the legislature, when they reconvene, may be making some tweaks to the statute. I think there are a lot of questions that are being accumulated from the different municipalities, clarification on certain items, things to iron out. But it does seem like this is a pretty big, or could have the impact to make a lot of change for our communities. And so we didn't want that to be a surprise. So we thought we'd bring it to the forefront. Andrea, Diane, or I don't know if anyone has anything they want to jump in with. Did I give it an okay overview?
Sure.
All right, cool.
I think it is really important, especially as we get to the next item on our agenda around enrollment study. We certainly look forward to working with the school district and with Cumberland on figuring out these kind of growth trends within our communities. Tig just pointed out something really critical for the difference, I think, between Cumberland and North Yarmouth and the way that LD 1829 is going to impact our communities. Because North Yarmouth has no public sewer and only a small percentage of our community is on public water. I live literally in the center of town and don't have public water. That many of the deep kind of shrinking of lot sizes and the opportunity for homes to be built much closer together in smaller spaces is going to apply much less to North Yarmouth than it will to Cumberland. Importantly, I think the place where North Yarmouth will probably be more substantially impacted are around what we expect to need to be a change to our ADU, accessory dwelling unit requirements, where currently we only allow people to build one bedrooms. This law so far is intended to remove that restriction, so allowing ADUs to include more bedrooms, which, as we know, often means families with children will move in. And so that is kind of one of the places where we expect that to impact North Yarmouth. But I think it will be really important, and I think we're doing a very good job of that, of just kind of continuing to stay in touch and not generalizing kind of the impact of this particular law around our full MSAD 51 community, but recognizing there's going to be that kind of back and forth. And I know Diane has let me know that we are expecting guidance come out about how this will need to be implemented. So we in North Yarmouth are not taking any steps just yet, knowing that the legislature is reconvening for their short session to talk about this, but also knowing that just as they did with LD 2003, we expect them to come out with guidance which will help streamline the process and alleviate some of the planning burden and the cost of going through that planning process on our end. So.
I'll also just add, our town planner, Bridget Perry, did a bang-up, awesome presentation on LD 1829 at our last council meeting, and kind of looking at specifically what this means or could mean for the town of Cumberland. I'd be happy if anyone would like to just see what that looks like, to just send that presentation out, because it'll kind of show you the different, where the current growth areas are, also which of those current growth areas are on water and sewer. We won't go into the specifics about density, but certain, you could take a lot size that has 2 acres and what that could look like based on the new law. And so I think that could give you a good idea of kind of the practical application, as well as reading the statute, because the statute is always going to be a little bit confusing, but she did a really wonderful job at what this could potentially mean and kind of potentially look like. Go for it, Matt.
One other thing, Madam Chair, both towns are on 2 different timetables.
That's right.
Because Cumberland is a council town, and so Cumberland needs to act on this on or before July 1st. And with North Yarmouth being a town meeting town, they have until July 1st of 27. So get a little bit more time than Cumberland does. But it's I know we're all looking forward to see what our friends in Augusta bring back down to us through rulemaking and clarification this winter in the short session. So they know that there are gaps and there's a lot that have to be filled. So, but that's a lot to move in a very short period of time.
Jesse?
So since we are going to think about long-term planning, I know we haven't finished building the new school that we have right now, but I'd just like to put in a plug that we know change is coming. There's going to be some level of additional housing, whether it's ADUs or just more density, right? And hopefully the school district is set for some number of years, but at some point we're going to need a new school or more new schools. There's no more room on the MSAD campus. So I guess I would encourage both the school board, but also you guys to start thinking, are there town-owned properties in North Yarmouth and Cumberland that could someday be a site for a school? Because as developers snatch up properties that are near sewer and water, there's going to be less and less land available, so that 10, 15, however many years down the line when we run out of space, like the high school could build up, but we might need more elementary schools, local elementary schools. So it's not an immediate concern. We'll do an enrollment study. Hopefully we have 5, 10, 15 years, but I think we should be forward thinking and think, I know the town forest, right, was like deeded by a woman who wanted it to benefit schools. Maybe that's an opportunity in Cumberland. I don't know as much about North Yarmouth, but we should be thinking about it now so we're not caught sort of off guard in 10 years when it's like there's no land left and we can't build a school anywhere. So yeah, just a plug for us to sort of start thinking 10 years out, right, so that we're not caught flat-footed.
Jesse, I think you're spot on. Well, 4 years ago, we tried to just put a simple salt shed in. And that took us 2 years, and we didn't have any place to put it. Luckily, we obtained the land down here, which was forward-thinking. I'm sure we're going to be looking at some lots in the near future. But we really got to preserve them for municipal services, whether it's school, our public services garage. I don't know if that's how long that's going to last us. So, but you're spot on. We've got to look and land bank for a while.
Yeah. Does anyone have any feelings or questions or thoughts?
I always have feelings.
Get after it, Tim.
I'm kind of curious I guess from your perspective, I didn't hear a lot from, I guess, either side in terms of the growth plan as part of the goal and what we can do. Like, we don't have any control right now over what's happening at the state level, but like, what is under your control? What's your thinking in terms of growth? Like, to what Jesse's saying, it's like we have a floodgate that's about to happen. Do we have any kind of control that we can kind of ease that burden so that we're not asking the taxpayers again for another school after we just got through this? And then I guess, yeah, I mean, I think I'm just kind of curious philosophically where you guys are at, because that makes a big difference in terms of what we have to plan for as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, we can control the growth zone. So the comprehensive plan will make a recommendation as to geographically where and what those growth zones look like. And then it'll be down to the council to adopt the comprehensive plan, which becomes sort of our foundation, probably like your strategic plan, I would imagine, right? And so all of our zoning has to be in compliance or kind of reflect the comprehensive plan itself. And so there's that, right? So there's, looking at your zoning and being thoughtful with your zoning and being thoughtful with those growth areas. On the other side of it is that developers can legally develop things. And so I've heard anecdotally that there are real estate agents driving around Cumberland looking at lots and saying, what can I do with this, right? And I think that's why I would say, just thoughtfully really trying to work through the growth zones and, what this is going to mean, because I think the intent from the state, as I understand it, was to
increase housing.
Yeah. I mean, increase housing, right? And so how do you do that in a way that's not illegal, right? But is also kind of, we know that Cumberland, and I don't know if, I imagine it's a very similar sentiment in North Yarmouth, but we love kind of the rural character, right? And we love our open space. And, I think being able to preserve that is something that we know that the residents would like. But just how are we putting that into practice practically and not illegally? I will shut up. Other thoughts?
Well, there are also some things that they changed too, and like commercial zone, anywhere there's commercial property allowed, you can also have residential on the second or above floors. So even if that's, I think, ignoring the growth zone aspect of it, if there's commercial zoning, you can put commercial on the first floor and then, apartments above. So there are some things where our hands are tied in the current situation, sort of, unless we got rid of commercial zoning writ large, which I don't see it happening, especially because we want more commercial zoning to offset the impact for taxes. That's gonna be a little bit of a, hands are tied there and all. And then wherever there's sewer and water, even if there isn't a growth zone, there's still some more, I guess, less restrictive in some way for adding housing there, and we're not going to be ripping up sewer and water. So that's sort of set with, those places where there's sewer and water is an idea of like, all right, well, at the very least, X can happen there, whether it's in a growth zone or not. If it's in the growth zone, it can just be more.
Yeah, I think the other issue, Tim, is that the rate of growth, you can't limit it off of 1829. It eliminates that rate of growth within the growth zone. So I think, to your point, is controlling where those growth zones or how big those growth zones are is going to be really important to be able to control the rate of growth. We're not going to be able to stop the growth for the very reason that you just brought up with the different zones. And if you're serviced by public water, public sewer, you're still subject to a lot of this, but being able to slow, to some degree, to slow the rate of the growth will have a much bigger impact on when we need a further school which obviously, if all this building takes place, then it's going to happen. But the idea is, can we keep it, 10 years down the road rather than 3 years down the road?
Yep.
So then that'll be a question, and it's going to be much more difficult for you, just the way Cumberland zoning is versus the way our zoning is, and then not having the sewer and water makes it a lot easier for us also to deal with.
Do you have something, Mike?
Yeah, just going back to the question asked about philosophy on this, I really have a deep appreciation for our legislative contingency, but I think they were wrong on this one. Cumberland residents spoke very loudly when our housing referendum came up, but we never stopped looking at ways to increase housing here. We looked at changing the ADU ordinance that we have. We only changed it 4 or 5 years ago, but we looked at changing it. We looked at doing stuff in the growth areas, but we want to still keep the feel of our town. And unfortunately, they took local control and made it state control. And to me, it's hard for us to sit there and okay housing, and then tell you guys, hey, don't build any more schools. We don't like, I mean, it's not your fault. You didn't put more people in this town. We did. And you guys have to deal with the growth. So, yeah, I'm disappointed that this law went forward. And North Yarmouth's done a great job in their growth. It's really, what you guys is amazing. I like, you come up Tuttle Road or Greeley Road, you still got that rural feel, Blanchard Road, but we've added housing, and we've done some really responsible housing, and unfortunately we were told by Augusta that's not enough, so that's my philosophy.
Really appreciate that.
Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I just, excuse me, still getting over a little bit of sickness, not contagious. Just been talking in meetings all day today, so it's a little hoarse. A lot of this land that's potentially could be developed is obviously owned right now, and there's some tracts there that have been in families for a very long time, and there's obviously changeover within families, and things come up for sale because 4 people are inheriting something that one person had. And I think we need to look at, as towns, how to incentivize or help those families transition that land or make an option to preserve some of it in an appropriate manner, or that complies with the law but in our favor. And I think a lot of that land and a lot of those people that own that land would be happy to go that direction. So I think if there's a way that we can come up with a way to do something like that, then I think it would benefit us all, because we all love our open spaces.
I'll definitely say as North Yarmouth is going through an open space planning process right now, that is one of our core goals. We had the very rapid development of our village center, and number of those properties that were in our village center over the last 10 years were for sale for quite some time before they were purchased and then developed. And part of North Yarmouth's strategy in really trying to be proactive with this open space plan is to identify those really critical tracts of land, those spaces where it does represent the character of our community and feels, has that emotional feel, the recreational benefit, the ecological benefits, all of those different pieces, and having variety of that, and then really engaging with all of the tools in our arsenal to protect and preserve that land. So, that is working with local land trusts, and I know, Cumberland has an amazing land trust in the Chebegan Cumberland Land Trust, and in North Yarmouth we have the Royal River Conservation Trust, but there's also very active engagement with Maine Farmland Trust, as well as a number of other programs that can help to do that type of land preservation. And I think that we are in a position as communities that, if we do want to make sure that we are retaining the Cumberland and North Yarmouth that brought us all here. There are those types of opportunities really are the places where we can make real change in preserving those pieces. So those folks, yeah, it's I think the call is out to everybody who, if you take all of us in this room, including the folks in the audience, we have probably connections to the vast majority of folks in between these two towns, and having those conversations before it becomes the one big parcel of land that now is being divided between multiple families. But, prior to that, that's the time, now is the time that we need to be having those conversations about that, as well as about, is this a place for a new school to go? The more that we can be proactive, the better. And I know between our open space planning and the comprehensive planning that you all are doing and that we're about to start, we are laying the groundwork for that. So those kind of questions are really critical within this conversation. But I do just continue to look back to what are the entities out there that can take some of the burden off of us as towns to help to advance some of those town goals of preservation of spaces, and that protection of rural character.
I'll just reiterate, thank you, Jesse, for bringing up the importance of forward thinking, and thank you, Mike, for affirming that. As somebody who came onto the board in the midst of trying to find property for this school, we can't ever go through that again, right? If you're still our superintendent in 15 years, which I hope that you are. But yeah. So sometimes land comes up for sale that is adjacent to the school. And we as a board are obligated to consider that land because it would be irresponsible not to. And it is very challenging to say, is this something we should bring to the community and say, we're thinking ahead 10 years given, and obviously as we get into the enrollment study, but it's also very, very hard to ask our taxpayers to buy a piece of land on the off chance or on the good chance that our enrollment will go up considerably. So there's always that tension of wanting to be forward thinking, but not having all the information, not having the crystal ball. So the more, the more that you can share with us and the more that you can have that on your radar so that it's not on us. Well, none of us will be on the board at that point, hopefully, but it's not on the school board and the superintendent to, well, it's gonna be more than 3 years. We know. That's true. That's true.
My kids are.
Anyway, you know what I'm getting at. So thank you.
The last thing, he's not here tonight, but I promised him I would ask the question. So we know our beloved Councillor Vale is the king of shared services. And so he also just kind of asked, as we kind of talk through the strategic, the high communication, just to see if there are opportunities for all of us, whether they be towns or within the district, to be having some of these conversations around sharing services with Yarmouth and Falmouth as well. If there are any places that we can be, working together on everything from, payroll to staffing to back office stuff. He is not here, and so he does not expect an answer, but in this moment, obviously. But something that I think we can kind of be in touch on as we kind of continue to go down this path. Okay. Next up, we have our official enrollment study. Is it okay to punt over to you fine folks on this? You don't want me to talk about enrollment? I just okay. Know that's
So we have, the district has regularly done enrollment studies, especially as things started to trend a certain way. It is the responsible thing to do before you ask the community to build a new school is to have the best possible information. And several years ago, what was it that there was a joint study done? Was it 2013?
2016.
16. Okay. Yeah. So coming up on 10 years now since we've done that together. So as a school district, we have paid for those enrollment studies. That comes out of our budget, which means it comes out of taxpayer money. And we are officially asking that, given there are so many changes, given that it is challenging for us to ensure that the firm that is doing the enrollment study has the most up-to-date information on developments that are being planned, whatever it is, all that you can see. If we can do that together, then we could come back together at a joint meeting. Probably not the next one, realistically, but hopefully maybe the one after that, where as these joint bodies, we can be looking at that enrollment study that we have all commissioned, and that can guide our conversations. So that is what we are proposing, is that we would like to invite both the towns of North Yarmouth and Cumberland to enter into this RFP for an enrollment study and share the cost.
I would just add that the SAD has not, we have done studies, I think we did 3 after the 2016 study that was jointly done at Mike. I think you probably remember that back then when Planning Decisions did that. Then we hired Rebecca Wandell, who worked for Planning Decisions, and she did subsequent studies, I think in 2019, 2022, and 2023. So we haven't done one for 2 years. It was November of 23. Her last enrollment study that she did for us, she made a comment, and it was a very important comment. I can't forecast any further for you unless you're going to do this on a pretty annual basis. Because of the post-COVID numbers and all of that stuff. But she did say, and there's a lot of development I don't think she included that she knew about at the time, but we haven't known since. So there's been development over the last 2 years, which obviously is going to have some impact on our enrollment. So the SAD board, I think, at their last meeting, as I said to both towns, is requesting a joint study to be done that includes development and enrollment. So it's not just enrollment now, it's development as well. We really feel like it's an important marker to do that. That 2016 one was really important. And all 3 boards had an opportunity to ask questions, to hear a presentation. I think doing that again would be super critical to get that done, and especially in light of 1829, because by the time they'll be done with the study, it'll probably be several months from now, if not a year from now. So I think it would be an important marker for us to be looking at all of that. So I appreciate the consideration.
So when you're asking for the joint, just asking us to share costs, what are we talking ballpark, for the overall, and then is it a 3-way split, or sort of what's the breakdown of all that?
It would be an RFP out, and I think we're working with both towns to find out, the scope of what we're looking for. So obviously, we did that in 2016 too, just the scope of the project. And then there was a cost that was split 3 ways between the 3 entities. And then there's a joint presentation and a very detailed report that came with that. So probably something along those lines would be my guess, unless people have other ideas.
Realizing that 2016 costs were 2016 costs, and not today's costs, like a rough idea of what we're talking about.
We did look that up the other day. I think it was somewhere, do you remember you were sitting in the room when we got that number? It was like $5,000 at that time. Or it was $2,500 for each. So it was a little bit more than that. Yeah. So $7,500 probably at the time. I think it was $2,500 that we billed for each of the 3. So it's definitely going to be over $10,000 for sure. If depends on how detailed you want to get. That one was pretty detailed.
It was, Jeff, and it really helped. I know Shirley was on the council at the time. It really helped us understand. They talked about housing flips.
Yes.
The older generation, and people would come in with families, and for me, it was for the whole council at the time. It was a big help.
Yeah, it was kind of a baseline for the SAD too, because we sprung-board off of that 2016 report, and Rebecca Wandell kept using that report as her baseline. and kept updating and doing more detail based on that. So it was really an important piece of, I remember that meeting and how important, and everybody was asking a lot of questions.
It's good.
And it was helpful, yeah.
Would it also be helpful just as, I think we've kind of batted this idea around, but we've maybe not kind of codified or formalized a process, but when we have things come to the planning board, right? So on that development, I'm getting some big nods over here. Okay, so I think it might be good, and maybe Matt, this is something you and Bridget could take offline, but codifying some kind of process at the staff level so that when the planning board agendas and projects, site plans, all of that good stuff are published, if we could maybe get the administration on a CC on there so that you're aware of what projects are coming, and rather that way you're not being reactive and trying to find or go to the Town of Cumberland website, which has a new website, by the way, I missed that. But it would just be good so that we're being proactive and pushing information to you rather than your enrollment team member not having the information at their fingertips. Is that something we could figure out?
I think we can, Madam Chair.
Heck yeah, we can.
Thank you.
Cool.
Tig. So I think something that would be helpful, so that I'm on the Lands and Conservation Commission for Cumberland, and we get the Bridget report, which is just a summary of all the developments and where they're at. So I forwarded that to Leanne because, I was like, this would be very helpful if we saw this. So I think something like that, Matt, because I don't know that we need the details of individual developments, but that Bridget report is once a month. Here's all the developments and the stages they're at. Mineral Springs is 32 of however many eventual. So you're sort of seeing the progression, and we can sort of just get a broad sense, right? Because we don't need to be in the planning details, but just that bulleted list is super useful for the LCC and would probably be useful for us as a school board just to sort of know the pace of development that you guys are seeing in town. And if North Yarmouth has anything similar, just the high level once a month bulleted list, so we can sort of see oh, things are picking up, or the sky isn't falling, or the sky is falling, right?
Hopefully not.
And one other thing I think was super important is that with the new LD 1829, there's no growth caps in growth areas, right? So that's the lever that I think you guys have, right? Because I think it's there's a 65 there's a 65 permit limit. So even though on Tuttle Road there's not that many houses now, but if you developed it to the max of LD 1829, you could put 6,000 units on Tuttle Road. If you maxed those 100-acre parcels and such, right? But you guys, if they're not in growth areas, we could trickle them in. So I think, the comp plan's going to have to be very thoughtful about where those growth areas are, because you guys can't restrict those. And so I'm sure a lot of developers are going to keep an eye on what those growth areas are. So, the sky, I don't think is totally falling, but we got to make sure we hold it up as much as we can.
We just mentioned planning boards a little bit, and I had mentioned at the last school board meeting, there's obviously a cost per student, and we publish that every year. So I don't know how many, I haven't been to a planning board in a very long time, one of those meetings, and I don't know how much of that's passed on there. So we look at it and we're we're gonna put 30 houses in, and the average amount of kids in a house is 1.5. And you take that number and times it by whatever the published rate is that year per student, and that gives you an idea of, well, we're going to take in $30,000 in taxes, just throwing a random number out, but it's going to cost us $45,000 to, educate those children each year over 18 years. Yeah, so just a thought.
You're not wrong. I mean, one of the things that Leanne, Andrea, and I talked about a couple weeks ago is, did the state at all think about the impact on police, fire, EMS, because we're going to all of those things. It's trickle down effect, right? So it's not just school enrollment; it's all of these things that we're going to have to, be really thoughtful about from a budgetary perspective. It's a lot. It's a big change.
Yeah, I think the underlying piece is we're all in to figure this out. I mean, it's the money that the school spends on building school, all of the money from the school that trickles to our constituents, it's all mixed together. Even though we're 3 separate boards, there's so much connection between it doesn't make any sense for us to be, working in different silos. And I think we've been doing a good job of building and strengthening those relationships. And it makes sense for us to go through this process and to be part of it. I think, we have very similar questions about like, how much is it going to cost? And, will we know by the time our budget process goes through? Because as a town, we take a much longer budget process, and we have a lot less flexibility once the budget is set than a town council. And so, those are really important questions for us of understanding what do we need to put into our next budget in order to ensure that that's available. If that timeline doesn't work, then knowing that, 71% of North Yarmouth's budget is actually the school board's budget, having the school board take on that, that expense that continues to come back to North Yarmouth residents in a similar kind of way. So I think that, making sure that we're looking at the budget cycle in order to do an enrollment study when we need to do an enrollment study that isn't hamstrung by our kind of more drawn out and less flexible budgeting process is certainly something that we should just talk about as part of the process. But I think, it feels like it's something that we're looking forward to being part of and figuring out how we can ensure the flow of information in all the directions so that we're all working together with the same data instead of trying to fill the mysterious gaps between the three different entities.
And to address that, as far as planning boards, prior to sitting on this board, I sat on our planning board. And our land use ordinance does actually have a phasing requirement depending on a school capacity issue. It's not a very well-written portion, but it is or was an attempt, I'm assuming after the last comp plan that was put in our LUO, to try to slow the rate of students entering the school, especially as the school reaches capacity. But during that time frame also, I was asked a number of times whether or not we did a tax impact study or asked developers to do a tax impact study to see how much tax, what the tax impact, especially with the increase in the school enrollment possibilities would be, and then to find a way to pass that off onto the developer rather than absorbed by the town. But so I think it's a great idea to at least look at that and look at what we can do with our different zoning ordinances to kind of help slow that rate, especially given LD 1829 and the possible growth that can come off of that, to have the planning boards be able to slow that impact or the impact of the students hitting the schools so quickly.
I would just say that that's very important, and because obviously growth is growth, but if it's incremental or if it's at a rate that can be managed, one of the things that the architects did build into the One Campus project, now that we have more land on campus that was purchased, is there is allowances for some addition on the campus for all of the buildings, except for the high school. So the middle school, the Wilson School, and the new school all have pieces built in, slabs built in, or areas built in that've been identified for some incremental growth, knowing that there will be growth that might come in. So we're not putting modulars back on the campus again, at least for quite a while. That's what we'd like to avoid, obviously, or to even think about going out to ask for another school. But that incremental growth is important, and that was built into the plan this time, and we made sure that was there. And the board really felt very strongly about that.
Zooming out further, I think that one thing we all need to also keep in mind is that, again, our friends in Augusta really need to think through how school construction projects are financed, how much money the state is giving to other districts. We are a district that, through voting by our citizens, has agreed to invest in our buildings, and our buildings are in decent shape. We always have projects that we need to do. We apply for state subsidy. We always look for that, but the reality is that we have been investing well
in our buildings. And there are many other school districts who have not been able to do that, perhaps have not chosen that, and now are seeking state funds. And I do wonder what that could do for other districts, since we are one of the rare districts in the state that continues to grow, whereas other districts decline, if the state is investing more in these other towns and other districts and getting their schools to be in much better condition and something that the community is proud of and wants to continue to invest in. Maybe that might take some of the burden off of Cumberland and North Yarmouth, because not everybody will want to move here. But I think that that is something that collectively we need to make sure Augusta understands, that it can't just be a couple of towns who are taking the burden, right, on all of this. So I think we could have a letter campaign or something going on, or if only we knew some state reps.
Well, that reminds me, because Senator Teresa Pierce, who represents this area, she is sponsoring a bill that goes to a hearing on November 14th, and we can get the information to everybody in this room, that would markedly increase the amount of money available to school districts and municipalities for building new schools. Right now, in every cycle, only 3 schools get funded. That's about it. And you are on the list for 15, 20 years if you're even making the list, because the state is so far behind. So Senator Pierce's bill would markedly increase the amount of money available for school construction. So that doesn't help us now in this community, but if down the road 10 years, 15 years, we're short again in a school, we want to make sure that there's more schools in the queue, might have a better option for getting a state-funded school. So this is an important bill. It may be one of the bills that I haven't seen a bill like this in the legislature in a long time, and Senator Pierce is sponsoring it. She's accepting, or they're accepting, written testimony and in-person testimony on November 14th. So I'd encourage anybody to do that, and we'll certainly get the information to everybody in this room. If you'd like to at least submit some written testimony, that would be great.
So where do we stand on the RFP? Is it a mutual agreement? Is it something that we pursue outside of this meeting, or beyond this meeting? I don't recall how we make the decision.
I think the joint boards just asked the managers and myself to look into all the details, get everything together, put a proposal together, and then probably work with the chairs of the 3 boards to get that going if there's agreement here in this room. My guess would be the next step.
Yeah, I haven't heard any major dissent.
Yeah, it will obviously have to come to each board, or I can't speak for Cumberland. It'll have to come to our board for approval, and we'll need to, figure out where that budgetary pieces come. But I think that we can get ourselves to the point where we're ready to have that discussion, and moving forward in that way works.
Yeah. Yes, they do the same way.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree on the Cumberland side. We do a lot of things by consensus, but we do have 3 counselors absent tonight, so I just want to make sure that they've also had the opportunity to watch this meeting, be brought up to speed. Was there kind of a date you were hoping? We love a deadline over here.
What date do you want?
Whatever, just give me one.
As soon as possible, I would say, and to Andrea's point, obviously, every governing board has to approve it on their own, but obviously we can get the information together and get that to you guys. 3 of us can.
I'll just say we have a board meeting on November 18th, so if you are speedy enough to even start that conversation, we certainly can put that on the agenda, but we probably will anyway, just to continue to discuss that as a group of 5. But any information that you have, certainly send over, and we can jump on it as soon as we have whatever you're sending.
So I don't want to speak for the SAD board, but probably it would just be approving an RFP, or the approving me to go out for an RFP, which you also kind of did at the last meeting. Yeah. And if the other 2, I don't know how that operates in Cumberland, North Yarmouth, but that's probably how the SAD is going to handle it. And that was already approved, that they've directed me to go out with an RFP, assuming the 2 towns are interested in doing that.
I think if you have a draft or any materials that you can send to us, that would be really helpful.
We have a meeting on Monday, so we'll bring that up as part of new business, because it's not on the agenda, but then we can probably, if we need to do some kind of vote, we can do that in our second meeting in November.
Okay.
Cool beans.
Tig,
Yeah.
before we just jump off
Please.
this, just I like the dashboard. I didn't know it existed with all the cool little graphs and all. So, thank you. It looks, I see that you have the price per student on there, and each year you've mapped that out. Does that mean that if you add one more kid, that kid will cost, the 15,000, whatever, more to the budget, or is that we have the whole budget and take that and divide it up by the kids, and that's what it comes out to? So adding one more kid to a class, you're adding, a lot less, because a lot of the costs are, infrastructure costs or debt services. One kid isn't going to add more debt service or a new building or anything. Then you get to a certain point, and then you're going to need to add another teacher. So that jumps the cost up, but it's sort of, there's a range of, if we add this number of kids, this is, still the average price roughly, and then it bumps up to, adding more teachers or more support staff or anything like that.
Right. So it's not a direct correlation. It does, obviously, like the biggest thing would be adding staff based on how many students there are. So does that increase the denominator? Right? If it doesn't decrease the denominator and the numerator has gone up, then it actually goes down a little bit. It also depends on what services any given student requires. So it's possible that if it's a student who has an IEP, who requires any sort of special ed services, that's going to have to get factored in. But to your point, it's not like adding one student adds
15,000, whatever.
Right.
Right.
If anything, the cost per student might go down for a little bit, sort of like an assessments. But it's a general number, and it also is, the number that we publish is budgetary, or is it after state subsidy? So what it costs us
We
per
publish
student.
it both ways. So
Yeah.
we publish it so that it's a raw number so people can see that number, and then we also publish it based on state revenue.
Right.
So if you back the state revenue out, that number looks obviously lower. And then we compare it to several communities in our area so people can see if we're in line or not. So that should be on the dashboard too.
I've gotten that bit yet, but when then somebody also knows, it looks like, if I'm reading this right, roughly 10% of the kids that live in the school district don't actually go to MSAD. It's like 9% roughly kind of thing. That's sort of between, charter school, private schools, and homeschooling.
That number
Is that-
seems
am
to
I-
be going down just a little bit. A lot of our high schoolers are choosing to stay, or I should say our 8th graders going into freshman year are choosing to stay at Greeley. That's just we don't know if it's a trend, how many years defines a trend for that one. But certainly we were a little surprised at how many students are choosing to stay in district. So yeah, that number will probably change over the next couple of years.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking, if we're trying to get we bring in this number of houses, we have roughly, this number of kids per house. How do we get a more accurate number to say, all right, well, we can add this many and not really add that much cost, but once we add, 2 more houses, then the cost balloons up. And for us to be able to factor that in of sort of what's that sweet spot of allowing some growth, but not allowing so much that it's going to quickly add a lot more cost.
Well,
all
it
at once.
also depends. Is it a starter home? Is this a couple with maybe a baby? Or is this an established couple who already has 2 kids in, middle school and high school? So it does depend on who is actually moving in. And what we're seeing is quite an increase in middle school, because families who are established, they're in their careers, they've been saving money for a lot longer, they are able to buy a house, as opposed to 28-year-olds who don't even have a baby yet. So that is obviously a factor as well. I don't know, is that something that the enrollment study would be able?
Yeah, and Rebecca did. Actually, that's a really good point, because there are students in every school district that are homeschooled, go to charter schools, and go to private schools. So, or have a superintendent's agreement, which means they can come or go from a district as long as there's an agreement in place. So we used to lose or I don't know if lose is the right word, but we used to have about 10% of the students between Greeley Middle School and 8th grade and 9th grade at Greeley High School that would not go to our high school. We're now below 5% of the students between 8th and 9th that actually leave us. That's a trend that's been happening since COVID. So we continue to monitor it. We've had the lowest percentage, and we haven't updated those numbers this year yet. I believe on the website we have the latest enrollment that just got done. Those numbers are now far below 5%. So we're not losing the students to private schools that we were 10 years ago or whatnot. So that has changed. But that is a percentage of students that you can kind of say probably are not going to be in our schools because they are homeschooled, go to charter schools, go to private schools. And that's just kind of over time you can average that out and use that number. So that's a good point.
All right, just keeping us on time. I think our final is the One Campus Project. If I'm not mistaken, Tim, this is your show, maybe?
Don't build me up. All right, if anyone's superstitious, have wood around because I'm going to jinx us quite a few times going through this. So first, I just want to start and thank everybody, those that supported the project, those that didn't support it in via votes. I think we've all gotten really good feedback from everybody. We've had a number of volunteers and donations. We got a scoreboard that didn't come from us and it was donated. We've had a lot of teacher and staff participation, particularly on the building committee, and also town support. So really appreciate that. It's been a lot of work. So overall, we're continuing to move forward pretty smoothly. We are several components are coming online right now, and we remain under budget. So I think that's really important for positioning us well for future decisions. So I'll open with the turf field. So the new turf field is open and obviously in active use. I'd love to see our record on that turf field because I feel like a lot of celebrations on that. Yeah. Overall, the feedback on it seems pretty good. As you know, it's a kind of a revolutionary surface type. And we've heard, I think just the only negative thing I've heard is from soccer players who complain that they have a difficult time cutting, which is actually good because it prevents lower body injuries. So I'm happy about it, but I pretend that I'm very sad about it for them, but it's really good. Field lights have been replaced. So these field lights have less, what would you call it, noise pollution in a way?
Yeah, less light pollution.
Light pollution.
Less glare.
Yeah. And they've been put on a set schedule, so they automatically shut off when no activities are set. But I would love to hear from the neighbors if they're experiencing that or not. But that's the plan. The PA system has been replaced, and we are actively evaluating volume levels as well. And so I know Jesse's had like a noise machine out there, like decibel ratings, and yeah, he's out there. I've been out a couple of times and would, definitely appreciate any kind of feedback again from neighbors of what that looks like, so we can have a good environment for everybody, the entire community. So we are actively working on participation and field use rules. I think they're posted outside the fields right now, but that's like an ongoing discussion about, because we want the community to use it. We put it out first in a lot of ways because it's kind of an immediate impact and we can see the value of our money immediately. So we want the community to use it, but we also know that like there's safety concerns and other concerns as well. So we're working on that. MIW, if you've driven through campus, is under construction. You can see that we're adding additional classrooms there. So there's a slab preparation underway. The stair shaft is complete. And steel begins next week. Steel delivery comes in next week. Yeah. I don't know what the tariffs are on that, but I don't want to know. Classroom additions are still expected to be done by the fall of 2026. Hopefully that's like done in the summer, and we're there's no tight timeline, but right now we're still on track for an opening of fall of 2026. But most of the MIW improvements will come the following summer, where we'll remove the portables and do some of the inside renovations. So stay tuned for that. The new school building, the foundation work continues. So hopefully you've seen, I don't know, concrete start going in there. And that's expected to run through January, just in time for the freeze. We're very excited for the timing of this. Footings and walls and stuff get put in, and we're still on time for a completion date of June 2027. Maintenance building. So approximately half of the exterior siding of the new building has been complete. The interior work is mostly finished. Windows have been installed, and we're awaiting CMP to bring power in. This one has been kind of the thorn a little bit in terms of everything going smoothly. This is the one that's taken a little bit more pulling. So we have a new estimate for completion December 13th, which is about a month later than we were originally hoping for. And this has slight ramifications. There's some risks to this because we have to move from our previous facilities building into this new building. And moving that previous facilities building is like impacting the ability for us to continue construction and do some of the projects on that end. So hopefully December 13th, we are crossing our fingers. The old building, we are actively working with the Cumberland Historical Society to make sure that the dismantling of that building is done honorably and that we kind of respect the historical significance of that in our new build. We are, I think, still in the middle of assessment of what tearing that down does from a health standpoint. That building is very old. It has some things that are not very pleasant for us to be around. So there's some assessment on that going right now. Off-campus improvements. So the final DOT submission is going in this week. I don't think it's gone in yet, but it's this week, right? Today. Good. See, we're on top. So that included sidewalks, traffic lights, crosswalks, four-way stops at Greeley Road if the town requires it. And then we will share more about traffic impact and construction as we kind of understand the timing a little bit. But that's the current status on that. And then, again, I want to reiterate, the entire project remains under budget. So hopefully at the end of this, we can look at, what room we have in the budget to consider expanding paving or other finishing improvements, or what we can give back to the community or to the school as well. So there's a lot of options we're considering with that, depending on what the final numbers are. But overall, we're really happy with our financial status. And that is the quick overview.
Thank you, Tim.
Mhm.
I just want to add a couple quick things. You talked about the rules for the field. Our students were very involved in that. Katie, I'm putting you on the spot, but do you want to just share how you guys did that?
Oh, how we made the rules?
Well, and communicated them. And what kind of feedback you got.
Yes. So Caitlin, my other student representative, isn't here tonight because she's out celebrating the boys who are winning right now, I think. So I hear. So, fingers are crossed. They're playing Yarmouth in the regional states right now for soccer. Yeah, they better win. But anyways, we got kind of a list of rules or some regulations that were going to go onto the field, because Caitlin and I were asked a bunch of very random and funny questions by other students at Greeley, can I be on the field all the time every day, at night, all through the night? Are the lights going to be on? Can I do this on the field? Can I do that on the field? Nope. And so we kind of took the list and wrote up a little report / email of regulations that we hoped the students would feel like they could follow, especially coming from us as their peers. And so we wrote kind of please don't use confetti on the field. Please don't use baby powder on the field. This is the light system. This is when it's going to be on. This is the schedule. And those types of things. And then sent out an email to all of the grades in the high school. and it was really, really well received. And the students, I think, really appreciated that it came from student reps, because I think a big goal of Caitlin and I in general is to like make the school board a little less like scary, because it can be intimidating, and so even though
obviously
yes, clearly scary, but it was really well received, and so we want to keep doing stuff like that in the future. But I think that was definitely a highlight for us.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, thank you for doing it, and thank you for sharing just now. I also want to let everyone know that a week from tomorrow, the finance committee, the district finance committee, there's now 4 school board members on that committee. We've expanded it a bit. We are going to be meeting with our bond counselor, as well as a representative from Drummond Woodsum, who works with us on our bonds. Our first bond anticipatory note is coming due, so it's time to get the second one. So far, our interest rates have come in really strong in the good way, and so we will be able to update our financial plan, our financing plan for the One Campus project after next week. And then taking off my hat as a school board member for just a moment, since Tim brought up sidewalks and things like that, I run a driving school with my husband, and anybody who's listening tonight who has young children, please teach them to push the button at the crosswalk so that the flashing yellow light goes on, because we're seeing a lot of kids who just kind of get there, look, and go. So I am asking that become a community-wide effort and adults too, to push the button so that we get the flashing yellow light, and drivers are more likely to see a child, especially as it is getting darker later. So that's my driver's ed moment. Yeah.
And I have one more thing. And thank you for the reminder. I'll be looking at the flashing lights. I feel like you're talking about me. The naming of the school campus, the various parts on school campus, we're looking at potential naming opportunities. But the first one is the new school, so just an update on that. So I think we received around 23 entries, something like that. And there's a subcommittee on the facilities committee of the communications side that's going to take a look at those and go through like a rubric of rating those and evaluating them and then narrowing them down. And then we will share that with our policy committee and, actually we're going to share it with the community, get feedback on the community on our top 3, share it with policy, and bring it to the board. So there's going to be opportunity for the community to engage in the selection process. And, we definitely welcome public comments and stories around each of the names that we pick. And so just a heads up on that. And if it's not selected in the top 3, we are still looking at other opportunities and places to have those names fulfilled in this project or future projects. Yeah.
Tim, I just got one question for you. You mentioned the maintenance building and the delay in construction on that, and how potentially, if that's missed, it could delay the new school and the opening date of that. Are those contractors under any financial penalty if they miss any of these deadlines?
They are. There's a financial penalty for the one that would be under right now would be for the contractors that are under the maintenance building right now. So there are, and that I think that is Scott is working on that with. Yeah. Do you have a good?
I was just going to say the reason for the delay, and I don't want to blame CMP because I love CMP because they turn the lights on, but. We've had a process with CMP, and because of the wind, they were supposed to come out this week and power up the building, and they need power in the building to complete the work, and so we do not have power in the building right now, so they've been using alternative power. So that is probably the biggest reason. There's been other reasons for the delay, but that is the biggest one right now.
Okay.
No, there are that. I mean, there are things for us to do, and then the other aspect is I don't think this delay is going to push us so much that the school is delayed, but I think some of the worry has been some of the stuff we wanted to get done before winter, and so it just kind of impacts like what work looks like and the schedule within winter and what, it's not as easy. So if the weather's fine, then everything works out great. And if not, then there might be some hiccups. But I haven't heard anything yet from this delay being that will significantly impact the open date.
Okay,
How
no,
about
it's just
global warming.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
it's a big project and there's a lot of money on the line and they should just be held accountable. That's all.
Yeah, we have discussed that at the facilities. Yeah.
Any other questions on the awesome project? Okay, so I know you have a really important and exciting bond meeting next weekend, but is it also the Sound of Music next weekend?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, so
weeks
important bond meeting, and then the hills are alive.
And I know that because it opens on my birthday. So, yes, November 21st. Only think about Sound of Music on November 21st. Don't think about my birthday. Yes, the bond meeting is Friday the 14th. The finance meeting is Friday the 14th at 2 o'clock.
And when did tickets go on sale for the
They are
other
on
exciting
sale. They are
event?
on sale. Yes, thank you for reminding us about that. We are very excited about the Sound of Music, and I would not be surprised if it sells out. So, please, if you would like to see it, consider buying your tickets now.
Thank you all so much for being here. It's a pleasure to see all of your faces. We will reconvene in a couple of months, and I think everyone's got their action items for next steps on RFP to disseminating information. And yeah, happy Thursday. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Happy holidays.
Just a reminder that we're going to schedule the joint standing committee.
Oh, yes. Don't
leave.
Can we do that right now? For our Andrew, you're JSC, right?
Am I this year still?
Yeah, you're on JSC and Jeff is on JSC.
I should go for a drink because I'm sure she's expecting to know.